Yeah, we're live. We're live, Dominic. Come on and join us. Your other friends. Okay, good evening, everyone. Call the meeting of the Finance Committee to order. Today is Wednesday, March 9th, 6:30 p.m., thereabouts. Room 320 of the Multi-Service Center. This evening on our agenda is to review the Upper Cape Regional Technical School proposed budget and also review the Adjusted School Committee proposed budget. Before we start, may I ask the clerk to call the roll, please?
Sure. We have Dom Camarano, Matt Rose, Dave Hurd, Chairman Bernie Pigeon, Jody Smith, and myself, Jerry Stefanski. So we have six of 9. We got a quorum.
Thank you very much. Before we start, there's a few items I'd just like to bring to mind. Last night at the Selectmen's meeting, there was a discussion on their agenda regarding Onset and Onset Center, as I'll call it, and down in the beach area. And apparently the CPC had appropriated $333,000 to redo the band shell, and we found that money to fall very short of what was actually needed. So there's another grant that's coming on, about $250,000, which should allow for a renovation. They also did an engineering study, or a feasibility, as like one might call it, and found that a total replacement would be $1.4 million, which obviously we can't afford. However, the renovations that they propose should take care of all the current needs, and for the performers that use it very frequently during the course of the summer. Also, the Onset Park, which would be between the amphitheater and Buzzards Bay Coalition building, that is also for a significant upgrade. And there's about $850,000 set aside on a grant for that. It's in progress. They've had operators down there evaluating the trees and the like. The walkways, railings, et cetera, are all going to be either replaced or revised. And so that is looking up for that entire area with all 3, Buzzards Bay, the amphitheater, as well as the park. It should be a fantastic park by the end of the spring, or hopefully they're trying to do it as quickly as possible. However, because of the labor shortages, et cetera, it may take longer, and their start date has also been delayed. But certainly is a reason for optimism for that whole area, and I think it's going to be outstanding for the community. Yes, go ahead, Jody.
Just adding to that real quick, if you haven't watched the meeting, the Buzzards Bay Coalition put on a presentation of all the programs they're going to run, starting sometime in April, some in conjunction with the high school, but they're from kids to adults. There's a lot going on down there, and people should be very optimistic about what's going on in Onset.
Oh, indeed, and they're doing fantastic programs at Wickes Island. They're fixing the pier that we appropriated for the last town meeting, and they have their programs, significant amount of scholarships available, depending upon one's income. It is a full scholarship down to quarter scholarships. So by all means, if anyone's listening or watching, keep an eye out for I think it's this Saturday and the following Saturday, they have programs. And there's sign-ups also during that time period for summer programs. And they're working one program, I believe, with the school, starting up a sailing program. So by all means, a lot of activity going on for Onset, a lot of optimism for the summer. And moving on then, I'd like to introduce the superintendent for the Upper Cape Regional. Mr. Forget, please. Are you the one that complains about the parking money?
I'm sure it's Mr. Camarano that's making the complaints. Good
Is he
evening.
like that in a meeting when he's with you?
Good evening. I'm Roger Forget. I'm the superintendent at Upper Cape Tech. I'd like to thank the Finance Committee for allowing me this evening to come and to present our budget. As we go through, you all have hard copies. As we go through the line items, if you have questions, please by all means ask as we go through. First of all, our budget subcommittee. Our Budget Subcommittee is chaired by our chairman, Robert Fitchemeyer from the town of Wareham, Michael Geegan from the town of Sandwich, our treasurer, Dominic Camarano from the town of Wareham, and Mary Ann Smith from Falmouth. The next slide shows Upper Cape Tech's participation in our co-op rate. You can see that across the Commonwealth, we are currently in the top 3 in our placement of our juniors and seniors out on co-op at nearly 39%. Sure.
What does that mean, cooperation, co-op participation rate?
So cooperative education is our placement of placing students with employers during the school day. We are a week-about system, so students are in on 1 week in their shop area, and then they are in academics the other. During their shop experience, their senior year, having had the 2.5 years required by statute, they are eligible to go out onto co-op. So our plumbing students could be working with any of the area plumbing or heating contractors, and they are. Our electrical students, all of those in their particular vocational area could be out on co-op getting credit for school and getting paid for their work on the job. Juniors are eligible mid-year of their junior year. Again, they're required to have 2.5 years in that trade area to be eligible for co-op. And our placement last year was almost 160 students. That puts us by this ratio at about 39% of those students eligible to be out. You're welcome.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Do the co-op hours count towards their union membership or certification as?
Great question. It absolutely counts towards licensure time, towards for journeymen. So for electrical, for plumbing, those licensed trade, HVAC, cosmetology, they all count towards those times. We have nearly 1,800 hours going towards either the plumbing or the electrical, along with an additional 300 hours of related, counting towards their journeyman license. And so they have a real leg up going right into the field,
So this saves them several years going forward.
as well as money in all of the training right across.
Excellent.
Yep. The next slide shows student certifications. This is a sampling of some of our shop areas and some of the certifications that our students are eligible to obtain prior to graduating from Upper Cape Tech. Again, all of these certifications allow them now to be much more marketable out in the workplace. If you have your OSHA 10 card, your ServSafe, ASE, any of those particular Yamaha certifications make you much more marketable out for the employers as well as in the workplace.
Sir, if I might add,
Yes.
with these certifications, they don't necessarily start at an entry rate in the pay scale when they go on graduate.
That's correct. Yeah, they come in as an intermediate level employee, starting where they are, because, again, they already have a leg up. Going into any of the fields, and I'll use electrical again, they'll have the OSHA 10 card already set and moving forward. For our students in environmental science, they are eligible to sit for the HAZWOPER test, which is for wastewater. They can come out with a grade 2 certification to be out. In fact, I believe you have one of our graduates working at wastewater here in Wareham. So these certifications definitely make them much more marketable and help them as they're moving forward to be productive citizens and, again, stay here locally working in our communities.
Thank you. Yes.
Roger, I'm glad you said that. When we did the budget hearing all day, Guy Campagna from wastewater said that he couldn't use the kids as juniors, they have to be 17 years old? Is that?
That's correct.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's correct. They don't take the actual HAZWOPER test until their senior year, which at that point, they're usually 17 to 18 years to be able to pass that test.
So he was, I wasn't sure he was right. So they
No,
have
he-
to be 17 to
yes.
work in that field.
That's correct.
Okay,
That's
thank you.
correct. And that's true in certain fields right across. There is an age factor in how old they have to be able to be working there. And sometimes it's also the employer on their insurance, and that's a factor that plays in as well. For the HAZWOPER and for wastewater, the testing happens usually in Boston. We are one of the few sites that it actually comes out of Boston to test, and it happens at Upper Cape Tech. Community involvement. Again, this is a sampling of some of what our shop areas do in our 5 sending towns to give back. Our communities are supporting Upper Cape Tech, and we want to, in turn, support our communities wherever we can. The next page, you'll see some additional photos of our students and some of the different projects they have worked on.
It's interesting being seaside communities as we are. It seems the opportunities almost double as to be an inland.
They do. They absolutely do. If you were to come on campus right now, the students are actively building floats for the town of Falmouth that will be transported down there. It's really kind of unique, some of the projects that come up, again, being seaside versus being very far inland that you would never see. The next slide shows our per-pupil investment. And this slide is meant to show this is the state aid, and you'll see that noted in there versus what the member towns actually put in to paying for the student education from their town. Again, showing the responsibility and who's really burdening the burden itself, and it is the towns. The next slide shows our per-pupil comparison. And this is the FY20. This comes off the Department of Education website. The FY20 operating assessment from Upper Cape Tech, and you can see the comparison of all 5 sending towns, and you can see it here in Wareham. And we certainly are a deal for the town of Wareham and their students. Questions? The next slide shows the enrollment in the regional district. This year, our total enrollment is 772 students. Again, we're up 10 students from last year. But you will notice that the town of Wareham is actually down 21 students.
That's a significant amount.
It is. It absolutely is. Yes, sir.
Is the negative 21 for Wareham, is that because fewer students have applied?
It is.
Or fewer students have been accepted?
Fewer students applied. From the year to year, we track each town and where the number of truly the number of applications are coming from, and the town of Wareham's applications were down significantly, in the 50 range somewhere, from what it usually is. And you know, some of this can be because of COVID. We didn't have the ability to do our open house as we normally did in the fall, and again this year we haven't had it yet to be able to do that. That may have played into it, rather than, you know, just sending out emails and email blasts. I don't think that's the best way to get the word out. I'm definitely a word-of-mouth kind of person, so I believe actually speaking with families and getting them in is the best way for them to be able to see what happens at Upper Cape Tech, and that really hasn't happened in the last couple of years. So we're hoping is the near future that will change.
Now, you mentioned you have not had your open house as yet.
As of yet, yes.
You have one scheduled?
We don't have it scheduled. We're actually in the process of beginning. We're looking at May and possible dates, 2 for sure, that we would open it up to all 5 communities to come in and visit the campus and see the shops and see all of the happenings happening at Upper Cape Tech. Again, now that the mask mandate has been lifted, a little bit of an ease, at least for families to come up. I think it was difficult with the mask and with the distancing for them to even want to get out of their homes to come up and to do that. And as I said, just doing it via email and the web, especially when we're a hands-on school, is not the best avenue for promoting the school and what we do and its attributes.
Now, this shortfall of 20, I'll call it a shortfall,
Yep.
that is year-to-date. It is a shortfall of 20,
Yes.
but after your open house, it could change somewhat.
They could swing the other way next year and be 40 up. There is no rhyme or reason. There are no quotas by the charter, and it's blind admissions coming into the school. So we're not looking at residency, we're not looking at any of those pieces. We're looking purely at grades, and even now, the discipline has been really diminished other than it represents a piece of 37H and a half, something very serious. we're looking at the interview. And why does the child want to come to Upper Cape Tech? What are their plans for the future? And are we a perfect fit for them? Because if we are, then we really want to offer them a position and an opportunity of admissions to come in. We have continued to increase our admissions over the years. This past year, we were at 215. This coming year, we will be at, hoping to cap it at 225. I currently have 330 applications already. So,
Very good.
minimum contribution, and you can see here, again, this is from the Department of Education, what the minimum contribution is and how it has changed, and you'll see for Wareham what that means. It actually has gone down. The state has provided more Chapter 70 funding this year, and we'll see that as part of our budget presentation. To our next slide, budget drivers. Some of the drivers that are really driving our budget this year: contractual obligations, health insurance increases, increases in the cost of supplies due to the pandemic, and addressing the social and emotional health of our students. These are all things that are really out of our ability to control, so we do the best we can in providing that within our budget and within the scope of our ability to keep it reined in. Our FY23 preliminary budget. And you'll see that it has the approved budget from last year, along with the change up or down to this year, or no change whatsoever. So our school committee has a very minor change, and again, that is more supplies than anything else. The superintendent's line item represents, and that's my complete office, represents contractual increases for all of the personnel in there. The business and finance, you'll notice, is a decrease. Our information technology director took on the position of teaching in our IT shop. So we backfilled with a new position as an IT director, and we had a significant change in salary because that gentleman had been there, and you see the change here in that line item.
Significant change in salary.
School leadership is our principal, assistant principal in their offices, and those are contractual changes or increases. Our curriculum and leaders, that represents our curriculum director, our school student guidance director, as well as our vocational director and our food service director and their additional people in their offices, and those are contractual increases. On the teaching line item, you'll notice the increase there. That has an increase of 1 engineering instructor as well as 1 special ed instructor, and those are all increases, contractual increases, steps as well as levels. On that note, 40 of our 89 teachers are on our top step. They have been there for more than 13 years and are on varying levels of education. But I think it speaks volumes to the fact that the staff comes, they stay there, they're happy that they're there, and they just continue with teaching at Upper Cape Tech. Professional development, you'll see a slight increase in that line item. And the next one, textbooks and supplies, just based off of how everything is increasing and rising, you can see the increase there. Instructional technology is our Chromebooks for our 9th graders as well as the technology throughout the school. We felt that there was no need to increase that line item. We know where we're going with it. I have already been and contracted for the Chromebooks already so that they will be here in time. So we're ahead of the curve, and we had no increase there.
Good thing you contracted early.
Oh, yes, yes. I'm fortunate when we get to transportation, we can speak to that piece, that we don't have the increases in gas that are noted in some contracts, knock on wood. We have 3 routes going out to bid this year, so I'm sure those will come back very different in nature based off of what's happening across the country. On our student services, our physician services, as well as that represents our school nurse, and that's a contractual increase. Athletics, coaching, officials, and supplies, again, you'll see those are contractual increases. I will share with you that the MIA has restructured in how they're doing some of their state competitions. We played 2 of our boys' basketball games. One was in Pittsfield, and the other one was in North Adams. I don't know that the MIAA could have found any schools further out away from us to send our students. One was 3 hours, the other one was 4.5 in a bus. It's just ridiculous. I'm not real sure what their method is behind that madness, but certainly that's a piece that plays in with all of this.
I was born and raised there,
In North Adams or Pittsfield?
North Adams.
No,
I know that trip.
it is a long one. Student body activities, that represents our Skills USA as well as our Future Farmers of America. Skills USA just had our districts. We have 18 gold medalists and 16 additional silver medalists going on to the state competition. And a week beyond this will be our Future Farmers of America competition, in which the students from our horticulture shop will be competing both on equipment as well as plant identification and all other aspects of it. We usually do very, very well there. So I anticipate the same this year. Our school security, again, that represents a contractual increase. Our school security officer is the retired superintendent from Barnstable County Corrections. We are extremely safe in our school. Turning to the next slide, our custodial services represents, again, contractual increases for our custodial crews, along with the supplies. Our heat and utilities, because we have a solar array, we have gone into a 20-year contract to purchase half of the electricity at about 9 cents a kilowatt. That, along with the fact that we put new boilers in last year, we feel confident keeping our heating and our utilities at that rate constant will be well within what we need, so we have not increased that line item. Maintenance of grounds, again, those are contractual as well as supply increases. Operations and maintenance, you'll see that piece. Again, those are contractual increases as well as supplies, everything going up. There is a $1,000 increase on the maintenance of equipment, and that is just an overall increase in everything that's being done today at the cost of business. It is just an increase, and we anticipate it to hopefully stay less than that. Our operation and our maintenance total is $1,766,259. I mentioned early on about some of the drivers for our budget. Our health insurance, we belong to Cape Cod Municipal Health Group. They voted a 3% increase. Again, these are things that are not within our control. They are just part of what we have to anticipate and use within our budgets. The other piece is the GIC. I received our bill, which is usually paid in July. Again, a state entity that they estimate what the cost is, and this is my explanation as it was explained to me, because I questioned why we had $160,000 increase, was that they estimate what those benefit costs will be, and if there is a credit, they'll credit us the following year. Well, I'm not real sure we're going to see that credit, but we're up over $500,000 already just in GIC charges. So when we're looking at that line item, that represents some of which, again, is out of our control. Insurance, as well as student insurance, that's an increase as we continue to build, and we are currently building a new engineering building on campus that will be ready for September, because we're moving our students and our staff out there, so it needs to be ready for September. That represents those increases to all of that on our facility. School choice. Upper Cape Tech does not subscribe to school choice, but the DOR runs any of the students who, if a student was to come from Wareham to go to Falmouth for a Chapter 74 program, they would run that cost through Upper Cape Tech's. So they credit us and then they charge us. It really has no bearing on our budget, but we need to include it in. Our total foundation budget is $16,492,319. Our Chapter 78 this year has gone up $3,912,384 deducted from that, along with the deduction of our anticipated interest revenues of $20,000 and our anticipated municipal Medicaid number of $10,000. And E&D, our E&D was finally certified. It was certified at $165,000. We put $170 in against the budget to ensure that we were up and over that amount. That total comes up to $4,112,348. That deducted from the foundation budget leaves us with a net foundation of $12,379,971. Questions on that?
Excuse me, what is E and D?
E&D is our excess and deficiency account. It's money that is put aside up to 5% in case we have any horrific incidents hitting the school. We had a roof repair that we needed to do right away, and we don't have the ability to come back to our 5 sending towns to bond or to have that done, so we're allowed to keep 5% of our budget in E&D. If we go beyond that, we take that amount and that is applied to the budget to reduce the budget the following year. And in this case, we were over by $165,000 this past year. We put $170,000 against the budget just to make sure we were over and not under.
So your net foundation budget from 22 to 23 has actually decreased.
It has. And some of that is because of, you'll notice the Chapter 70 aid has increased significantly, $600+ thousand. $687, somewhere in that. We'll see it a little later on in our slides here.
I just have one concern, that is
Sure.
on your fuel cost
Yep.
for heating fuel
Yes.
and utility services. You maintain that as constant. You said that you do have a new heating system
We do.
and you are using a lot of solar energy,
Yep.
but the cost of heating fuel is just skyrocketed, so
It is. We have gas boilers that have been put in. They're high efficiency. They're somewhere in the 93 to 94% efficiency range that are there. I'm already, as I start to go monthly to check what we're spending, I'm seeing a decrease from last year already, which is certainly a plus.
wow.
Yeah, they're really much, much better. The ones we replaced were 23 years old.
Oh, all right.
So, you know, we're constantly updating our pieces as we go through. One of the missions and I'll say the vision piece for Upper Cape Tech is we want to maintain and be good stewards of what we have. So our building is 50+ years old. We maintain it with staff and students. At any given day, you can drive up to the facility and see the grounds and see the school, and it is sparkling. The floors shine and the walls are clean. All the way through, whether it be bathrooms or otherwise. And for a building of that age, it really says to me an awful lot about the staff and the students that are there. There's a lot of ownership. We hire students, our own students, to work on campus over the summer. Again, a lot of ownership and pride that's put into maintaining our facility. By us building all of our buildings, again, there's a piece of ownership that's put in because the students are building them. They're going to be able to come back and say, I built that building. I remember when I was here, and we worked on that, and we put that up. And those pieces are something that is really embedded into the curriculum, into what we do at the school. So when we're looking at certain things and where I can hold the budget very, very tight, I'm going to. I'm going to try to be very frugal. As my mentor, Bob Dutch, would say, be very frugal about what you spend and what you look at. We have a 5-year plan. We have a 5-year plan for capital. We have a 5-year plan for the school. And I'll speak a little bit about that as we move on later in the presentation, but it is a piece that we are always forward looking at to be ahead of the curve rather than behind. The boilers were something we had started 7 years ago to look at, to plan, to decide when, to execute it, to get the best price, waited so that we had the rebates coming back at the time so we could move forward with it. It's all planning ahead, and it's what we do. You'll notice part of the budget, we have a stabilization fund for our roof project. Well, we've been doing that for 6 years now. We have $600 and almost $700,000 in that account. we're planning ahead because our roof is 20-plus years old. It needs to be replaced. We had a feasibility study done. That cost is considerable, and we'll speak a little bit about that later on. But we're on top of where we're going and what we're looking to do. I don't like surprises, and I'd rather be upfront about what the costs are and what we have.
Excellent.
I might add, some of the things you've mentioned, you have a little more flexibility in your budget and how you manage it than
Yes.
we do on this side.
True, very, very true. We act as our own small municipality. We go through all of the procurement trainings and procedures to procure all of our items that we're buying out, but you're absolutely right. There's a real sense of autonomy with the school and the superintendent within the school, along with all of the financial pieces right within the school itself. I have the ability to execute things much quicker than most.
Any other questions, gentlemen? No? Thank you. Move on, Roger, if you
You're
would.
very, very welcome. Transportation. As we move to transportation, $326,791 were provided by the district. Our contracted transportation was $801,713 for a total transportation of $1,128,504. Our anticipated transportation aid, which is off of our cherry sheet, $844,652, leaving us a net transportation of $283,852. Our LPN program has a total cost of $572,756. We anticipate our tuitions to be at $573,000. That leaves us with a net to the LPN program of $244. Subtracting that from our net transportation gives us $283,608 for a combined net transportation and LPN. Questions? Yeah.
Again, what is LPN?
It's licensed practical nurse. That is our post-secondary program that we have, that we run at the school.
And Roger, your anticipated transportation aid, that's off the governor's budget?
That is off of the cherry sheet, yes, yep. Now, that's being funded at about 78%. It was always meant to be at 100%. Governor Baker has in one of his suggestions out there to have that reinstated, or to have it at least go back all the way back to 2016. I don't know if that's possible and if it will happen, but if it does, that will be wonderful. That will be, again, a benefit to all of our sending towns.
I'm just wondering where the $3 billion is that's supposedly up there.
Yeah, he didn't send that to us.
Nor us.
On the capital side, our capital this year, again, we've kept it the same amount, stagnant through of $130,000. Our bond is complete. We have finished paying the bond this year off of last year's budget, so there is zero principal to pay. That was our window project that we had. Along with, and I'll jump down, there is no interest to pay on the bond either, because it does not exist any longer. In our stabilization fund, what I've done is to add in and increase that. Last year was 120. I increased it to 175,000 this year. That is for the roof stabilization that I mentioned a little earlier. Your total capital is 305,000, which again is less than last year, just because of the bond interest and the bond principal itself, even making that additional change to the stabilization. I mentioned that we did a feasibility study. We will be looking next year to go to our towns to have a new roof. But additionally, we mentioned early on that we have 772 students. The school was built 50-plus years ago for 500. We have moved some of our shops outside to have much more of a campus approach on the campus itself. And then we've remodeled those areas to become classrooms, academic classrooms. We have continued to grow. We've added to our lunches in the schedule so that we made that work all the way through. But we are finding ourselves now at a position where our gymnasium is not large enough to hold our entire student body. So we will be looking to come to the towns ahead of time, and that's why I say I don't like to be surprised. I'm telling you a year ahead. We are putting in now a statement of interest. I wouldn't surprise you like that. we were putting in a statement of interest to have a new gymnasium built, as well as a new roof on the school. And this, again, we're not looking for a new school. We're not looking to change what we have. We want to continue to maintain what we have and what we were given. Unfortunately, we have exceeded now our student load or population within our gymnasium, so we need a new gym. So we will start the process with MSBA and see where that takes us. A new gymnasium is approximately $20 million. A roof, as I mentioned earlier, is $6 million. That's a total of $26 million. The MSBA reimbursement to Upper Cape Tech, at least for the window project, was at 38%. That takes almost $10 million off the top. And certainly this stabilization fund, as it continues to grow, it will never get to $1 million, but it will get close to it to reduce that $16 million by whatever that is at that time. That piece of it now would go over to the towns. We would bond, and that would be approximately, right now, as I start to figure it out, about $764,000 divided by all 5 towns. And again, it's based off of enrollment, of what your percentage is moving forward. I put this out there so that we can have a discussion and continue to move. I'm open to other suggestions. Happy to look at other pieces, but we have just continued to grow, and we're growing again next year. Judging by the amount of applications that we have, I just don't have the room. I continue to push out and push our class sizes. We need to expand that piece. So our current gymnasium would be remodeled, again, by us at no additional cost, to have academic classrooms within, and that would take up some of that piece of it to expand Upper Cape Tech.
You mentioned the reimbursement rate.
Yes.
MSBA evaluates the individual towns. We were very fortunate in so far as the reimbursement rate that we experienced. Do they take the average of the 5 towns?
I don't believe it's an average, but they do take into consideration all 5 towns.
Some of us more affluent than others. Of course.
Correct. And I'm basing it off of what our reimbursement rate was for our window project when we did that some 8-9 years ago, and did that at the school. It was 38%. So we won't know that until they actually do that assessment to what that rate is. I put it out purely as a guesstimate. So we have some kind of number schedule, and that's why, as I broke out what the bond and our rating is excellent, what that would look like and the cost, so that there would be some figures associated with, well, what's it going to really cost? What's that mean in dollars and cents? And start to have those discussions of what the total cost is, and then base it off of each town.
When did you get your estimates for the roof and for the new building?
So the feasibility study for the roof came in approximately 6 months ago that we had looked at it and done. That's, again, at $6 million. They went in, they tested different areas of the roof to tell us what we had there. Did we have asbestos? Do we have lead? Do we have any of these pieces? Because it is a build-up tar and felt method that had been done for years. And then assessed the structural piece of all of the building all the way through. Structurally, we're fine, and just having that weight removed and a new material product brought in, whether it be rubber, PVC, whatever it might be, to put on top. I don't believe we would go the route of, because it was suggested about putting solar on the roof just to have it structurally set to do that. I don't see that as being a feasible alternative right now. Depending on if some company was to come forward, then we would take a look at it. But right now, we would look at just replacing the entire roof over the school. And that's not the outer buildings, that's just the main campus building itself. And then I have a friend who is an architect who did some rough sizes and takeoffs and said, I would think it's going to be somewhere between 18 to 22. I said, oh, $20 million. He went, great to stay in the middle.
Yes, but that may be a little off now.
It may be, yes, and by the time we get there, it may be off as well, but I'd like to put at least some kind of hard numbers so that people understand at least what that means, because if I leave it open-ended, there really is no no understanding of what that cost is, and I don't want people unnerved or afraid. I want them to know right up front, this is what we're discussing, and let's have conversation about it.
And that's, the discussion has to start somewhere.
Yes, exactly, exactly. This leaves us with a gross operating budget of $18,498,579, which represents a 2.939 increase over last year. Any questions about that piece of the presentation?
Gentlemen?
Every good presentation has a pie chart, and I wouldn't want us not to have one as well, so the visuals so that you can see where the dollars are actually being spent. As you look at this, the majority, over 61%, all of it goes on to instruction. We've provided you the gross operating budgets over the last 4 years, so you can see how they have increased in what we have done, and that's true for enrollments as well. Our enrollment and capital percentages. So our enrollment this year, you'll see that Wareham has 229 students, down from the 250 they had last year. That's important for the operating budget. The capital is based off of the total enrollment in the town. So as you turn to the next slide, Wareham currently has 2,004 students, and that's first grade through 12th grade. And the capital is based off of those students, that total. As you turn to that last slide, that's right off the Department of Education. I included this so that you would see when we were discussing about what has gone down, what has changed. You'll notice here that the Chapter 78 was increased this year by $627,260, and that the required district contributions were also increased by $814,811. And those are important figures to understand that, again, those are pieces that are coming purely from the Department of Education, DOR. With that, we would like to thank you for your support of Upper Cape Tech. And your last slide has your 2023 FY assessment is $3,209,689, a decrease from last year of $427,840. And a decrease of 21 students. Any questions?
Jody?
Couple questions and a couple comments. Now that I've seen your budget, I have some interest in salaries and things like that. I'm not prepared to ask those questions tonight.
And that's fine.
Your friend Dominic over there, used to be my friend.
I heard that earlier.
I will put what I'm looking for together
Yeah.
and get it to him. You kind of saw what I went through with the other budgets and stuff, so that's that. The other question I have, and this is just kind of me being nosy.
Yep.
You know, moving ahead, I see you got wastewater you've added to your programs down there.
Yes.
Something aviation you were thinking about adding.
We were, yes.
How do you determine, I mean, it's very difficult for a 13 or 14-year-old kid to decide what's the job market going to be like 4 years from now. So it must be very difficult for you guys. So, you know, is it just kids come in showing interest in a certain thing? Do you look at the help wanted ads and say, boy, they're really looking for these people?
Actually, a little of all of that, as well as working with the local WIB, Workforce Investment Board, to find out what are the positions that are really needed in our community. Because our mission is to really prepare students to be able to work in our community and to have real viable occupations as they move forward. So what are the positions? I wouldn't want to put in a robotics shop because I thought that there were placements here when we really don't have that kind of manufacturing. Certainly they have that up by Route 128, up by Assabet Valley. That's a big component of the industry that's up there. We're going to look much closer to home, look in Wareham, Falmouth, Bourne, Sandwich, to find out what are the jobs. Where are they? What's needed? Do we need to put additional shops in here? And where is the want? So we're going to look at all different aspects of it. The help wanted ad, I actually read that on a regular basis just to go through to see because I'm very old school that way. But working with the WIB, the Workforce Investment Board, they will provide us what are hot areas within our area, in our area communities, both on and off Cape, for us to evaluate, is there something for our students? We talked about aviation. Quite honestly, to go into aviation, it would be more aviation mechanical, because right now, I spoke with 2 individuals about that recently. I was with them for totally separate reasons, and it just came up, but they can't find mechanics, and it's just, it's a hot area to look at. Is that something that students would be interested in? I don't know. I would begin to evaluate before we add new shops. It's usually a 2 to 3 year process. HVAC, for instance, we really looked at to see the market that was out there, and I had employers, calling us on a regular basis, you got to put this in. We need to have employees. And today I have 2 companies that come in on a regular basis to advocate with the kids. My seniors are already out. My juniors are going out on co-op, and they're now speaking with the sophomores to see if they can hire them for the summer, and it's like, well, they don't even have a driver's license yet. We're going to have to wait a minute and see, we'll pick them up. We'll find a way to make this work because there's such a need out there. I had a student last year for COVID who was very bright, who called me. Our cell phones are listed in the buses that the instructors take, and he found the list and was like, oh, hey, called me on my cell phone just before school started and said, listen, I have the ability to work for the company he was working for both weeks, so can I just do my academics remotely? I'll do it at night, I promise. I'm like, no, that can't happen. We're synchronous learning. You need to be on if we stay remotely
He was
at
creative.
that time. Yes, it was very creative on his part to do that, but it really speaks to their desire to work for these companies and to be that invested in work and what they want to do. It's a great opportunity. But before we're going to bring in a new shop, we're really going to vet whether it's necessary, because the last thing I would want to have is to put district resources towards tooling an entire shop area, and we want to stay state-of-the-art and have it not be successful. We really want that to be successful and move forward, and we're going to vet it before we bring it in.
And a little further into that, I don't know if you have a percentage or a number. How many kids go on to secondary education after graduating from Upper Cape Tech?
So it used to be about 60-40. In the last 4 years, 3 years, it has diminished back down, and it's right now somewhere in the 50-50, 55-45 range of actually going right into career, into work, and the other percentage going on to post-secondary. But that post-secondary number represents going to Ohio Diesel, going to Johnson & Wales. So it's not just going on to 4Cs or to Bentley or where they might go. I mean, we did have a student who, brilliant, had a full boat scholarship from Wareham, went to Tufts University, is still a student there, full boat scholarship. So those opportunities exist, but they're not the norm, and that's really not our mission. And I'm not in competition with my area high schools to do that. We are Wareham's high school, as much as Wareham High School and school system is. We're not trying to duplicate what's being done. Our mission is very clear. It's career and tech education, and we want students to go right into the field of work, and that's where we look to have them go.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Any other questions, Dominic?
I just want to bring up one thing. Jody, I think I have the information. You look at, go over it with Roger, and I'll get it to you. But I just wanted to say, I mean, I've been on the committee for, this is like my 3rd superintendent. And the superintendents before Roger did a great job. But this guy, I've been on the budget with him. He throws nickels around like manhole covers. Just something I thought I'd bring up.
I'm thinking that's a compliment, Don.
Any other questions, gentlemen? We have in the audience, we have Norma, who is a candidate for an opening we have. Norma, do you have any questions?
Very interesting presentation. I have a couple of nephews who are graduates of
Oh, wonderful.
and some neighbors, and I think a lot of the program.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Well, again, my offer to come and visit Upper Cape Tech, I would love to have you up for lunch and give you a tour. I'm extremely proud of our students and our staff. So you let me know when, and I would love to have you up.
Indeed, in the conversation that David and I had this morning, he even suggested, why don't we do lunch?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And
Well, we could have done this over lunch, but I don't want to.
And we can thank Bernie for that.
That's right. I don't want to go to the bar. I'm going to leave it alone. Leave Bernie alone tonight.
thank you. But since David did suggest it, I will designate he in charge of arranging for us to go for lunch.
David, good man.
David, just give me a call, and I'm happy to set it up whenever it works for you.
Very good.
Thank you. And thank you very much. Excellent presentation, as always.
Thank you. You are very, very welcome.
And
Have a-
my grandson is in Knoll Colony, and he is ecstatic over it. Of course, he has a job now, so he can put his own gas in his car. He's ecstatic about it. He made National Honor Society even,
That's great.
so it's great.
It is. It is. It really is. It's a wonderful school. We provide quite an opportunity, and for students, we tell them when they come in, it's whatever you put in is what you're going to take out. So if you put your whole heart into this, you're going to leave here, sky's the limit, and it truly is.
Thank you very much.
At every school. Get out of it what you want to put into it.
Absolute. I would agree.
Thank you. And I will scan this in. It'll be on our website
Okay.
sometime tomorrow.
Great. Thank you so much. Gentlemen, ladies, thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate your time, and I look forward to having you for lunch.
Thank you.
We'll see you. 5:15.
Norma, I'd like to invite you to take a chair there. I should have thought of it earlier. Norma is a candidate, and next Wednesday, the appointing committee will review her application and vote on her appointment. Thank you again, Roger.
Thank you again. All right, thank you.
I can measure up.
I don't have any concerns about that. But we'll give, any comments?
I think this group of old men need a nice lady to help us along. Different point of view.
I'm not sure.
Hang on, Dominic. Bob's yelling at you.
Sorry, Bob. I said I believe that this group of elderly men, excuse me, we need a young lady to help our,
Speak for yourself.
okay, I will.
I'm not that young.
But we were getting a little unruly, so I think we needed the woman's touch. Pardon the chauvinistic comments, but I mean,
I'll try not to slap you around too much.
okay, we have David's out. Oh, we have two others in the audience. By golly, nice to stop by. How are you, Kim? Again? Good. By all means, care to join us? Anyone know if it's still snowing?
Don't say that word.
We hear it's supposed to get cold tonight, freeze, yeah.
Because it's wet out there now, that means it'll freeze.
Well, I come back because we've reduced our budget. We're now at a 3% budget above last year. We're at $31,786,674.
What was that again, please?
$31,768,674. 3% above last year's.
What was that increase again, Doctor?
3%,
4.
3.
3, thank you.
We tried to get 4,
No,
couldn't.
that's okay. No, three's a good number. Even Social Security gives 3.
Yeah. So what we did is we went through the budget, looked for reductions. This budget does have a reduction of staff. It will either be through reduction in force or retirements, they will not be replaced. We're looking at, right now, approximately 12 to 13 positions that will be reduced. Depending on from here to the end of the school year, if we have additional retirements, we may be able to make some adjustments and save some of the reductions. We just don't know that yet. We still will maintain class sizes in the elementaries in the 20, 21, and of course, upper grades varies on the course that's being offered, would depend on the need. So if you have questions about our budget, I'm happy to answer them.
The 12 to 13 positions that to reduce, who are they in the context of administration or teaching, classroom teaching personnel?
They vary, mainly teachers.
Mainly teachers?
Mainly teachers.
What level, may I ask?
I'm not prepared to share that.
I'm
'cause-
more concerned that, about any reductions in the elementary level, considering the loss of education as well as the loss of other developmental issues in that age group.
I'm not prepared to share that because we have not made staff notification yet.
I understand that,
Yeah.
that part of it. I find it uncomfortable because, I mean, these are our children, and to say the impact I have on them or what we've already gone through has been significant. And I think that's a small word to say, to actually describe what they've lost.
I would agree. This budget also has the district putting in $800,000 from our circuit breaker that we will receive this year. We will be asking for the circuit breaker stabilization fund. We have approximately $100,000 in the stabilization fund. We intend on accessing that, as well as approximately $2,300,000 in the ESSER fund. So we are putting money from the district to make this budget work.
How much did you say from ESSER?
About $2,300,000.
Did you have that much for FY '23?
I do. We have about, I have approximately 300,000 left in ESSER 2, and I have 4.1 in
ESSER
ESSER
3?
4, ESSER 3,
3, yeah.
yeah.
They haven't done 4 yet.
No.
I'm sure they will. They
I'm
will.
sure they will, but yeah, no, hopeful, but. So this budget has district funds of $4,393,296 being put forth from the district to make this work.
Could you say that again?
Sure.
I write slowly.
$4,393,296.
From what, from where now?
From ESSER funds and circuit breaker and stabilization.
You have about 70,000 left in that stabilization after the 100,000 out?
No, we probably only have about 2,000 left. Yeah. Because let me go back and share with you, I had given you the number of 31. That's what the town's funding. Our actual working budget is $34,980,188.
Now, you have another 8 to 10 million in grants coming through,
We do.
and that's in, about 8 go on 10 with food, nutrition, and all for the cafeteria, I think. You got another 2 million from cafeteria. We never see that because it's all federal funds. Excuse me. So where do you feel the greatest impact will be for those reductions?
Supporting our students.
in that context would be the teaching staff, and when you say supporting our students?
Social emotional, our teaching staff, and just, everyday staff to make things work. We're touching all facets.
I'm disappointed that you didn't touch your administrative staff much more. You are very heavy over in the school system administration.
Well, that's what some people say, but I think if you compare to other districts, we're not.
I'm comparing you to the other side of the parking lot, which is where most of our taxpayers see it. Questions, gentlemen?
With the high, have you figured into this budget, I mean, your fuel costs, and when I say fuel costs, electricity, heating, diesel fuel for the buses, have you allowed for that? Because it's gonna get ugly.
Right, we certainly started with about a 10% increase with our cost when we built this budget. And I will be honest, that still makes me a little nervous with the fuel that's going right now. So that's something that we're watching very closely. The school committee has not made their final vote, so there are still things that may be adjusted within this budget. The bottom number will not be adjusted, but the line items will be adjusted.
And the other question I have, I know on the town side, and you folks do a lot of contracts coming up this year.
We do.
Have you,
All
I
five
don't even
years
want to
of
hear
it.
the number, it's,
Pardon?
I don't want to hear how many contracts. I mean, I heard, that, it's a lot, and we'll leave it at that. Have you figured money into this budget somewhere? There's a line item anticipating, what it may be?
Yes.
Who knows? Again, inflation, everything else, everybody can see what's going on there. If I could tell you where that was going to go, I wouldn't be sitting here.
Yeah, we have made,
Right, would be, so it's concerning where things are going. Some of these could be budget busters for some of these towns, just the way the costs are going up.
I agree. But yes, we have figured in with the unions.
Thank you.
Dominic?
To say what Jody was just saying, if gas and all that and diesel, is gonna go, I believe the state's gonna have to step in the transportation line and help these schools, because if it goes as bad as it's going, there isn't a school in the whole Commonwealth that's, line item on the budget for fuel is gonna even come close. That's if it stays the way it is. That's just my personal opinion. I mean, the state's gonna have to step in and move the transportation line up because of that reason. It's just, if you think about it, it's a no-brainer, really.
That's the scary part when you say it's a no-brainer. Nothing's a guarantee. I mean, I'm looking at this, they want to do away with the gas tax, which is 24 cents a gallon or whatever it is. They'll probably surpass that before the end of the month if they were to do away with it the way it's going up. It's, it's scary.
What do you have for a capital budget?
For capital,
Yes.
very little, very little.
Well, that doesn't tell me much, Kim.
Yeah, no, we don't have any money for capital really right
Okay,
now.
that's a statement.
Yes.
Norma, do you have any questions?
Well, I'm sure everyone else knows this, but what is a circuit breaker? I mean, I know what a circuit breaker is,
Okay.
but in your context.
Circuit breaker, for us, we get money for special education when we spend above a certain threshold, then the state will reimburse us. It's a year in the rears, so what we spent last year, we get this year.
Now, your spending from last year is much less than anticipated from the previous years under normal circumstances because of the COVID and the lack of being out, transportation or going elsewhere. So what's your projection for the circuit breaker? Was it about 900,000 usually? Probably down around 700 something now because of the COVID.
Yeah, we still send students out,
Yes.
and we have to get to a certain threshold, and And we did that last year with students, so.
I'd just like to add that we're very aware that we're offsetting a lot of this budget with ESSER money, and the ESSER money is not going to be here in 2 years. And so we have been making plans to working with Dr. Shaverhood, with the administration, what's going to happen in 2 years? How are we going to wean ourselves off of that? And we wanted to wait the 2 years because of the learning loss that's happened with the students, so to keep as much staff as we can have in these next 2 years to try to help with that learning loss that did occur. But then we know there is sort of a financial reckoning that we have to deal with, and we are making plans now to do that.
Well, the financial reckoning, we know is gonna come up in 2 years. However, in these 2 years, I would suggest spending all the ESSER money possible on retaining your staff and all to make up for the year or year and a half that the students left.
Exactly.
More concerned about the elementary level. They're the most impressionable, they're the, in the development stages where you get to the teenagers and you can't do anything with them anyway. But
As a
as it
former
focuses
secondary
on them,
principal, I disagree, but that's okay, but I get what you're saying.
when you raise teenagers, you know. But focusing on these kids in K through 6 is critical. I think the development that goes along, it's not a first, second, third grade because you're teaching separate subjects. Their brain's developing during that process also. So you have to teach what their brain will accommodate. And if it skips it all or they miss a piece of it, they don't make it up in the following grade because they've already missed what was going to focus on that particular area of their development. So losing teachers in the elementary level, I would strongly discourage even consideration. I would sacrifice your administration. Classrooms are more important than anything, especially with those new TVs they've got in there. You know, they got. Anything else, gentlemen? Norma?
I have one other question, and this didn't come. Oh, sorry.
It's on, you just gotta get closer to it.
Sorry. This didn't come up just now, but I was here the last time you presented here. And it's a bit of a revelation to me that the high school here has AP and IB programs. My daughter went to school in Washington, D.C., where IB is a very big thing, but it's always either or, it's not both. And those are both very intensive programs, and I wonder how it is that a town the size of Wareham is having both of those programs in parallel as opposed to choosing one.
We've had this discussion before amongst
I'm not surprised.
on the committee, honestly, and that's something I think we'd continue to look at. It's just speaking for the committee.
Questions, gentlemen? Yes, Tom?
Doctor, I know that you are under, a lot of pressure to get the budget down to around 3%. It's a tough question to answer, but is this budget truly reality workable?
Oh, yes.
It is, okay. So you're not, the pressure to lower it didn't add falsehood to it, or, the cuts aren't drastic just to make a number?
No.
Okay,
They're not ideal, but they're not draconian.
right, that's,
Yeah.
as long as you feel that comfortably workable, not the best, but they are workable. Thank you.
Matt, do you have anything? You know, the contemplative look on your face.
He's always thinking.
I would like to see the line items, I'm looking at the numbers from the first budget meeting where we had the wish list come through. So the first budget meeting that we had, where you had the wish list come through, where everybody came forward, you were at $36 million. And when we had the hearing, you were at 32. Now we're at 34. I'm just curious to where the bouncing is.
Right, I was never at, well, the 32 was once we applied district funds to the budget.
We were at 32 for FY '23 was 32, and of course, it's hard to see this. 'cause
Right.
from
That was the 4% budget. That was the 4% budget.
Right, and so after meeting with the town administrator, we went to 3%, and that's the 31.
That's the 31 that we have now. Will you be getting us a copy of the line item?
Yeah, did you get it, Bernie? I sent it to you. I must have been, I sent it to your Comcast.
I didn't get one.
Okay, I'll send it to you.
I'm
I
sure
sent-
you must have sent it.
Yeah,
Just didn't get it. I haven't been paying attention the last 2 days.
yeah.
Been preoccupied with being sick.
I hope you get better.
I'll share.
No, thanks. But yes, I'm sorry. I thought you had it, but yes, I'll get it to you.
Please, I'll make sure everybody gets one.
Okay.
David, do you have any questions?
Not right now, thank you.
Jody? I'm good, thank you. Jerry? Print out?
Just district funds, define that again for me? You
Sure.
call district funds.
Circuit breaker,
Yeah.
800.
Okay.
The Special Ed Stabilization Fund, 100. ESSER funds, ESSER 2, 300,000, and ESSER 3, 200, or 2,100,000, 2,011,514 dollars.
Okay, and then the district funds have that, but basically, the ESSER is a huge amount of that. And it's from ESSER from 622, 623, we're talking 623. What are you gonna have for 624? After you use these ESSERs for 623, as you just, how much you gonna have left over for 624?
About 2 million and some change.
Okay. And then the year after is when the crunch. Actually, it comes next year, Doug, for 620, because if you're using 2,400,000, then you get this year, or 623, I should say, of ESSER, it's at 2,000,003. Then it will go down to 2 million, a little less than that.
In 24.
Not so much pain, but then the pain comes in.
In 25.
Yeah, and generally speaking, is that going to be funded out of personnel, you believe?
Well, that's an interesting question, because what we're really looking at is we're set to see a number of retirements in the next 2 to 4 years. And as you know, when somebody from the top step goes and then you hire at a lower step, usually we save anywhere from $30,000 to $40,000 when that happens. So what we're really looking at and having some serious discussions with the administrators in the building would be projections in where we think will come in at. So we think that there will be some significant savings in our budget through retirements. That's not going to make the pain go away, but it will lessen the pain.
Are there any other things that'll make the pain go away other than personnel?
No, because most of our budget is simply personnel.
Yeah, 65% or
Yeah.
7, yeah. Okay, so certainly not utility expense.
Yeah, if we could make the energy go down, that would be wonderful.
We'll talk about that another time.
I know.
Now, the ESSER funds, we're talking FY '23 now, pending the ESSER, that's say ESSER 2, and ESSER 3, I think, is FY '24. And it's spend it or lose it, or turn it back in, which unfortunately some people are doing. They're running out of things to do it with, in some cases. Currently they are. I'm sure they're gonna become more creative now that they know. But it's, you're allowed to use that for administrative staff, or for staffing in general, which unfortunately on the municipal side, we are not able to do so. So you can save people up until a certain point, and then you have to take a major hit, assuming you're using it for personnel.
It's true.
But Kim, you're gonna be on the beach.
Yeah, I know.
Jody? Yes.
Just going back to what Upper Cape said, he had sound like about half the teachers at the top step as far as salaries go. Where's Wareham? I mean, that would, to me, I would look at that and say, well, they must be getting close to retirement age. Is that a decent gauge to go by, or?
We have a percentage at the upper end. We have a few in the middle, and now we're starting to see some younger people with less steps coming in. So our bubble kind of is here and then back up. We dip in the middle.
You know, your average salary, I think, by DESI standards is about 80,000.
Yeah.
Question?
Yes, Jody?
Um,
Jim, Jerry, excuse
You
me.
know, with the last 23 months instead of 5 weeks, do you see any increase in the need or the cost of special needs for the children that had to go with masks for 23 months? I mean, is this going to be an issue, not this year, but like in 12 months, in 24 months?
What we've seen in the last probably 3 or 4 months, we've had so many new students coming into us with special needs. In fact, I think in the last 2 weeks, we've enrolled 4 students that are out-of-district students, which right there says a tremendous amount of money. So we are concerned. Is it with the mask? I'm not so sure of that, but we just are getting so many students with emotional needs and academic needs that it's a little worrisome.
That's kind of an increase in cost. Another, you know, with that ESSER going away and this coming in, that's kind of a crunch coming up.
Yeah, we're concerned.
Because we have about 26, 27% of the student body is special needs.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea why? You said they're out of district coming in.
We seem to have a lot of students that are foster students, foster care, coming in, and unfortunately, for those students, there are needs associated. We have homeless students, a number of homeless students, and so we absorb that cost, transporting and just the needs. I mean, we have some really sad situations, and when a student's concerned about their basic needs, it's very hard to be attentive, and you miss things. If that happens long enough, there are some significant gaps, which means we need to make sure that we provide for our students and make those gaps disappear if at all possible.
By sheer numbers, your sped department is quite large.
It is, and they're very busy.
Jody? I'm good. Okay. Anyone else? Jerry, Mara? Anything you want to say, Ken? Or is that-
I'm good. Thank
And
you.
a few words.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I apologize for not double checking to make sure we've had some, and I will make sure the members have it. If any questions, we'll direct them
Thank you.
appropriately. Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Only one thing, Dr. Shaver, but we don't see you again. You have a great retirement.
Thank you very much.
Any other concerns, gentlemen? Next meeting date will be next Wednesday, be at room 27. We won't be Zooming like we are now, and have our...
We will or won't be?
Will not. Yeah. I'll try to have the petitioned articles lined up for next week, or if not that, there's a few articles. But the moneyed articles, the selectmen haven't received the detail on those as yet. and that means we have not either. But the petitioned articles, they all seem quite interesting. Some of them, as usual, controversial as ever. And I'll get all the information I have on them. I think you do. And there's been some puzzling issues with the warrant, the way it came out. And I'll get that straightened out for you also, so we'll all have full copies of everything. Yes,
This room or the other room?
the other room, the other room.
I was assuming here.
It's got an elevator. You can use it.
Joe Athlete here. I run up the stairs.
Oh, if I had a chance, I'll do that. Any other concerns, gentlemen? All right. Beg your pardon? Yes, I know. I can never figure out which floor it's gonna open the doors on. Just go to the top? Always go?
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion? Bidding none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It's a vote. Thank you, gentlemen.